Hello guys and welcome to Quipoin. So in the last video, we saw the SVG. We learned about the SVG. We saw how to create objects, how to create graphic in SVG, and how to choose the color gradient and how to import images in SVG. In this video, we are going to learn about the transformation in SVG. We are going to see how to translate, how to rotate, how to scale, how to skew, how to animate the transformation in SVG. So without any further delay, hit that like button, subscribe to Quipoin, and let's get started. Now what is this transformation in SVG? We read this transformation in Canvas too. So it is similar to that. Transformation is basically to change or to alter our graphic, to move its point or to alter its shape. That is called transformation in SVG. There are basically 5 type of transformation in SVG that are important. The first is translate, second is rotate, third is scale, fourth is skew, and the fifth and the most interesting one is the animation transformation. Now we are going to learn all these transformation one by one while coding, and let's start. So open your IDE. We use VS Code for that, and I have already written the question here. I have already written what we are going to do, and I have structured my basic HTML code. Now let's start. So let's open our live environment and let's create. First, let's set up our SVG. So everyone know how to set up SVG quite easy, and our SVG has been set up. I'll just close it. And now the first thing is translation. It is quite simple compared to the Canvas. First of all, for doing any of the transformation, we need a graphic. So let's create a graphic. Now I have created a rectangle. So I'll just quickly explain. X and Y are the distance from the x-axis and y-axis, and width and height are the width and height of the rectangle. So for translation, we have something called translate. In rect tag, we have a attribute called transform. Transform attribute help in the transformation. So remember it, we have to use the transform attribute inside the graphics. We don't have to create any other tag. We don't use any other tag to transform in SVG. We just use a attribute of the rectangle or the graphic, that is transform attribute. Okay, transform attribute. So this is the transform attribute, and to translate, it has a value called translate. Simple, very simple, very quick, and very easy. And what is translation? What is translate? Translation is basically changing your origin point to a new point is translation. So what value will go in translate? The new origin will go in the translate. Like if I have to input so let's say x axis 100,50, and you can see how it changed its origin, how the center point, how the origin of this rectangle changed or translated to 100,50. This is translation, and this is how you translate your graphic in SVG. Quite easy. What I did, I first of all set up my SVG, quite easy. Then what I did, I made a rectangle. This till this point it was okay. Till this point we have discussed, and again we discussed a new attribute, that is transform. This attribute basically perform the transformation in SVG, and inside the attribute we have value called translate. So we use that translate value to change the origin of our rectangle, and the new origin is 100, 50. This is how you translate. Now translation is done. Okay, translation is done. Let's quickly move on to the next, that is rotate. Now again, very simple, very easy. I have my SVG setup, I have a rectangle, and I have transformed to the new region. Now I want to rotate this rectangle. How to do that? Quite simple. Remove this translate input and add rotate. Rotate. So in transform attribute itself, its other value is rotate, which basically rotate your graphics. And there are three input in the rotate. Why three input? They are the angles. They are basically the angle of, like, till what we have to rotate, like 200. So you can see my graphic has rotated. So the first value is again your basically distance from the x and y, and this is your rotation of angle till what angle you want to rotate it. So this is how you rotate a graphic in SVG. Quite simple. Again, set up SVG till here, create a rectangle, use transform attribute. In that transform attribute, use rotate input to rotate your graphic with three input, that is x-axis, y-axis, and the degree of rotation. This is how you rotate a graphic in SVG. Now, scale. What is scale? What is scaling in SVG? Scaling is nothing but changing the shape of your rectangle, changing the shape of your graphic. So how you do that? Again, quite simple. Remove it. Use the input scale. Use the input scale and enter the values. Till what degree we want to scale our graphic. For example, in this rectangle, I have width 150 and height 100. So till what degree I want my width and height to change. For example, I want to change my width to extra 0.5 time, and I want to change my height, let's say extra 0.5. What I did, I changed my width to extra 1.5 times, and I changed my height to extra 0.5 times, and this is how my rectangle changed. Originally the width was 150 and 100. Now it has changed to something 1.5 times 150 and 0.5 times 100. So this is how you scale your graphic in SVG. Now moving on to the next and something new, that we didn't read in the canvas. It is done in SVG, and this is called skew. What is skew? Skew is nothing but changing the axis of the graphic. For example, I want to change the x-axis or the y-axis of the graphic. So we use skew, we use skewing. So that is skewing. So we are going to know how to skew. Now again, everything is same. SVG setup, made rectangle, use transform attribute. We simply use again input called skew, and this helps in the skewing. Now if question is where I want to skew my rectangle, in the x-axis or in the y-axis, how to determine that? Nothing. If you want to skew your rectangle to the x-axis, just write x in front of after the skew and write the angle of rotation or the changed angle of change you want in your axis. For example, 30. So you can see my rectangle had skewed 30 degree. This angle became 30 degree through the x-axis. Okay, now if I want to change it to y, if you change y, you can see it, the angle became 30 from the y-axis. So this is how you skew your graphic in SVG. So we have covered a lot. We have covered the major four transformation in the SVG graphics. Now we are moving into something very interesting and something very new that is not present in the canvas, that is animation transformation. What is this animation transformation? For example, if you rotated your rectangle by something called 200 degree or 30 degree. Now you want to animate that transformation, the transformation that occurred, you want to animate it. So how to do that? So we are going to learn that. So for that, again, I have set up my SVG. I have a rectangle and I'll just remove this attribute. Now we don't need a transform attribute. In animating transformation, we don't need the transform attribute. Rather, what we are going to do is in the rectangle, inside the rectangle, we are going to use a tag called animate transform. What is this animate transform? This tag basically animate your transformation. Whatever transformation you do, it animates that. Okay, so it has attribute called attribute name. This is nothing but the name we give to this. We basically give a name transform. And what is my type? Okay, in sense of what is my type of transformation. For example, it is rotate. So the type will be rotate. And now from this attribute basically tells from what degree to what degree. So there are basically two attributes, from and to. So for example, just give a random number. Okay, and to till what we want to rotate it is basically 360. Okay, let's say 360, 200 and 200. And what will be the duration? The duration is given by the dur attribute or dur attribute, that is for say animate for 5 seconds. And again it will basically rotate for 5 seconds and then will stop. But we can give it a repeat count. What is this repeat count? This repeat count is nothing but how many times it will rotate for 5 seconds. If I enter 5, it will rotate 5 times for 5 seconds. And if I give 0 or if I don't give a value, it will just rotate 1 time for 5 seconds. But if I give something called indefinite, so it will rotate indefinitely for 5 seconds. And what will happen if I close this? So yeah, you can see how it is moving. So this is how you basically animate your transformation. So we have covered the transformation in SVG. I hope you learned new thing. Skew and animation transform was new. It wasn't discussed in Canvas. Scale, rotate, and translation was discussed in Canvas. SVG transformation is quite simple. Basically, you write a rectangle in, and within the you write a graphic tag, and within that graphic tag you use a transform attribute, and in transform attribute we have 4 input, basically transform, translate, rotate, scale, and skew, and you use that to transform your graphics. And for animation transformation in the rectangle, you use animate transform tag and you give it a type, and then from where to where it will rotate, or from where to where it will perform its animation, and then you give it a duration and the repeat count, and you will create the animation of the transformation you have done. So I hope it is clear. I hope you got a transformation in SVG. If you have any doubt, you can come to HTML, and then in HTML graphics, you can go to transformation in SVG, and you can read this tutorial. I have made this tutorial. You can just read the code, you can understand, and you can implement it together. And still you have any doubt, you can go to let's discuss section. You can type your query here and we will be answering all your queries. So that was all for today's video in SVG. In the next video, we will be covering about the animation in SVG and interactive SVG. So stay tuned, subscribe to Quipoin for getting daily updates, and thank you.